If you could be any fictional character in the world, who would you be and why?
I don't know. Maybe Tarzan. I
Okay.
don't know.
Tarzan,
It'd be cool
that's
to be
cool. That's
slinging
different.
all over the place.
I like that one. That's cool.
Because I feel like I don't know, I have ADHD, so
Yep.
I'm like, hey, I'd be like Tarzan, flying from trees would be cool. Swinging from vines would be pretty cool.
That's awesome. All right, guys, welcome to True Talk. I got my man Gary Ahlberg with us today. What's up, dude?
Not much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I love that hat, by the way.
Yeah, you like it?
Yep. So you're a new dad.
New dad.
Lots changed since you've been here last.
A lot.
Yep.
Lots
Yep.
changed.
It was last year, probably right around the time where you guys were like ready for the kid. You know, right?
Yep.
She was ready to pop, as you said.
Yeah.
And now you're a dad, man. What's that like?
Oh, big change. Life
Yeah.
changes. Yeah. It drives me a lot more.
Yeah.
Especially in this business to like help a lot more people and, do well for my family and support them and everything else. So it's definitely a bigger why now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's awesome, dude. It's a little boy.
Little boy.
What's
Yep.
his name?
Dwayne.
Okay, you didn't do Gary Jr. That's good.
No, I didn't. I'm already a junior, so
Oh,
it'll
so
be
you
the
know what it's
third.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. My brother was the third, which
Yeah.
he hated. He'd always get, my dad would get in trouble for shit he did and vice versa. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, so you hit Hall of Fame this past year,
Yep.
right? Are you still are you still in home or are you virtual?
I'm doing last year when I did Hall of Fame numbers again last year, it was
Yep.
half in home, half virtual.
Okay.
So I was like making the transition
Yeah.
into the virtual.
Got it. Are you full virtual now?
Full virtual,
Yeah.
probably 90%.
90%. Yeah.
Almost.
It's funny because you were like, when I always used to brag, I'm like, well, Gary's still in the home. He's still in the home,
Yeah.
doing Hall of Fame numbers. So you have conceded. You've joined the rest of the crew. But how was that transition for you?
It was tough at the beginning. It was a harder transition.
Yeah.
Definitely going in home. I recommend for a lot of people because it builds your structure.
Yeah.
Right. I probably.
Are you glad you started that way?
I'm definitely glad I'm started
Yeah.
that way. Definitely. In home was a lot easier structure, being able to be in front of people. They're not going to hang up on you. It's
Right.
a lot more rejection, especially starting at the beginning.
Yeah.
The rejection rate virtual is a lot different than in home.
Yeah. Got it.
So
How long do you think it took you to where you felt like, okay, I understand virtual now. I can do what I was doing in home from a virtual standpoint. Was it months?
it was like a month, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, to where I actually started getting grooving with it
Yeah.
and actually started figuring it out where it was like a smooth transition.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it was definitely, I knew it was going to be a learning curve.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had to step back and I was like, I have to figure this out, try to get in front of more people.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Got it. Were you confident that you'd be able to figure it out? Were you confident because other people had, like, what made you so sure that that was going to work?
seeing other people do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I knew once seeing other people and then being able to like, hey, I'm going to figure this out. I kind of knew if I just put the time in and actually did it, worked as hard as I did in the field and do it virtually,
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be, big. It was going to be a big upgrade and definitely help, a lot of people. So.
When we started, actually prior to FFL, we were at another company. We're building an agency. We would recruit and we'd run ads for military and athletic experience, right? Because we always felt that would be a good fit for sales. Well, and I mean, the proof was in, it was, right?
Yeah.
You used to race motocross, right?
Correct.
Like
yeah.
at a high level.
Yeah.
How long did you do that for?
I did that for probably right around 6 years,
Okay.
7 years competitively.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. Did pretty well.
Yeah, I did all right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I was the fastest kid out there,
Okay.
but I was faster, I think, than I was a little bit above average.
Got it.
Nothing
Got it.
crazy.
What'd you like the most about it?
I like the competitiveness of it.
Yeah.
I really did. I think the adrenaline rush you get from it too
Yeah.
was huge, and I think I feed off of that. So
Yeah.
it was the competitiveness definitely drove me. I love being just competitive.
Got it. And you won, you lost, right? Because
Won,
obviously no
lost.
one wins everything.
Got hurt.
What did you learn? Like, I always feel like you learn more from your losses than anything you do.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What did you learn back then from when things didn't go your way?
I think a lot of it too, when things didn't go my way, I knew I just had to better myself. I had to get
Yeah.
better at certain things. I wasn't perfect at everything. I always knew that I wasn't going to be perfect.
Got it.
Right? So I had to work on certain things that I struggled on
Yeah.
and put a little more time into it to get better at those things.
But you always put it back on you.
It was always me. Yep.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Was it a coach or someone that taught you, or was that just who you were growing up?
I think a lot of it too growing up was accountability.
Yeah.
And it was always like someone was like, "Hey, listen, this is how it went." What was it? And it was a lot of it was me. And I always blame people a lot at the beginning growing up when I was younger.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be like, what? This kid's just bad. My bike's not fast enough or whatever.
It was every other reason but me.
Yeah.
You know, and then it came back, and then I was like, once I started taking accountability in it, and it was my own fault.
Yeah.
And I still try to better myself every single day on accountability. What can I do that makes, like, what did I do wrong, or what can I fix and get better at?
So what changed once you started taking accountability?
When I started taking accountability, everything changed. Like, I started improving. I saw when it was my fault, I got better at it. Like,
because you could fix it.
I could fix it, right? Yeah. And instead of blaming other things, it's kind of like the mindset of it.
Yeah.
I think always, like, when I took accountability for myself to do better, it just got better, you know, and I actually tried to improve on stuff. So.
Yeah. Because if it's someone else's fault, if it's the guy coaching you or whatever, or, you know, this kid bumped me, whatever the hell it is. I'm not a big motocross guy, so I don't know all the ins and outs. But if you pin it on something else or someone else, then there's nothing for you to do, right? Yeah. Then it's just, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and it's a big sport, too, where it's me. Yeah. Right? It's not a team sport.
Right.
So it's all me.
Yeah,
right?
You can't go, he didn't pull his way. It's like, dude, you're the only one racing.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the only one on the bike. There's not two people on the bike. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Why did you stop?
I think a lot of it was injuries and stuff, you know, just constantly getting hurt. And I was like, oh, man, I'm out of work and I wasn't able to make money and stuff like that. So I was like, you know, I got to kind of set back. And I had a couple changes in my life, too, where my family, you know, where we were moving from our house, kind of lost our house.
Really?
Yeah. So back in 2014, it was like one of those quick sale foreclosure type things. So
wow. You were still at home with your parents then?
I was still at home with my parents. And, they were getting divorced. And I was like, I got to do something. So I knew racing and getting hurt, I had to support myself, right? Kind of started from the ground up.
Wow. So it's kind of like almost like your rock bottom moment.
It was
Yeah,
definitely.
So parents getting divorced, they can't keep the house. And how old were you at the time?
I was 20.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're kind of at that borderline, like still a kid, not really, you know, and it was time for you to grow up.
Exactly. I had to grow up.
What were you doing for work then?
I was working, that's when I first started working at the motorcycle dealership.
Okay. You were selling motorcycles, dirt bikes.
Selling motorcycles.
Yeah.
And it was actually a crazy story because I was working at the dealership, and when we had to move out of the house, I think we had like 3 weeks until I had to get out of there. Like it was like and I had nothing ready, you know? And I actually got a call from one of the buddies. It was actually like someone was looking after me because Quinn called me.
Yeah.
Guy never talked to on the regular. He's like, hey, I heard you're moving and you need a place.
Yeah.
Went and looked at the place, and it was like almost like a sign from God almost.
Really?
Like, hey, it was pretty cool. It was like, and then ended up.
Did you have a plan at that point? Like
no. I had no plan.
Because this whole time you lived at home.
Yep.
Right? You weren't out on your own yet.
No.
And now you're kind of being forced out.
Getting forced out.
You didn't have the option to live with either parent. It was just, now it's time to go out on your own.
Yeah, my mom said, hey, you know, if you want to move in, you can. I was like, you know what, Mom, I have to make a change. I have to figure this out. Like, going to live with you, I love you. You know, I'm here to support you and everything else. But I was like, if I move in with you, I won't grow. You know, personally.
You knew that at that time.
Yeah. I was like, I got to suffer and figure it out.
Right. So your buddy calls. You got a place. You're working at the motocross dealership or the dealership. And around this time is when you stopped racing. Focus on basically adulting.
Being an adult. Yeah.
Now, prior to getting that job, had you been in sales at all or no?
That I actually went to school to be like a technician and work on them.
Okay.
And then I kind of went from there. I broke my wrist from racing.
Oh, that's right. You were a mechanic at first, right?
Mechanic. Then I worked in the parts department. I went to sales. And then ended up doing that and then being like sales manager. So.
Did you want to get into sales? Were you kind of pushed in that direction? How'd that happen?
I don't think so. Like I didn't look at sales. I was like, oh, I really want to be a technician. And it kind of just like. I was like, man, I like this. I think, and I started like doing it more and more and getting involved more into sales.
Yeah.
And I loved it. You know,
What'd you like the most about it?
I like the adrenaline of it. I love when we were selling motorcycles. It was cool because people were like, they enjoyed it. They were getting something they wanted and like seeing their face. It was cool. You know, as far as that goes. And just bettering myself. Like I knew I could get better at sales and doing it. So it was cool.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier reading some books. Did you get any personal development back then, or was that when you joined us?
When I joined here.
Yeah, got it. So how many years were you working at this dealership for?
I worked there for almost 10 years, but like nine years. Yep.
Got it. And I know you had a situation towards the end that really kind of, I guess, put a bad taste in your mouth. Buddy of yours passed away, or his dad?
Yeah, one of my best friends, his father had passed away, actually, of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so ended up doing that, and I was telling him I worked 6 days a week, never took any days off during the week, and ended up going to the funeral, and he's like, hey, you don't show up, don't plan on coming back. So I was like, okay, if that's how it's going to be.
This is like, you weren't like a repeat offender, like I'm calling out twice a week,
no.
or, every 2 weeks someone dies in your family,
Yeah.
Those people you love. It's like, dude, your dad's passed 4 times now.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
how many dads do you have? Like,
yeah.
Or maybe use a different excuse, right?
Yeah.
But you weren't one of the, you're like, I'm busting my ass working 6 days a week,
Yeah.
and this guy passed who you were pretty close with.
Yeah, really close. He was like a father to me. I knew him
Yeah.
for 25 years.
Wow.
I played hockey when I was 3. He was bringing me to the games, so.
Oh, shit. So you let your boss know ahead of time, like, hey, this happened.
Yeah, and it was still show up, you got to be here, come in for an hour or two. I'm like,
yeah, like, dude,
man,
it's a funeral.
I'm going to a funeral. Like, it's emotional.
Yeah.
For, knowing them and seeing what happened and everything else, it was crazy, so.
Got it. And then what happened? You got fired?
Yeah, so I ended up not showing up, which I told him I wasn't going to. Right. And then showed up Monday, and I was fuming already because I knew what I was going into.
Yeah.
So, threw my jacket on the desk. He's like, oh, come into my office. So I was like, oh, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I was ready to go to war. So, and he's like, I thought about it all weekend, and it was around Thanksgiving time because it was in November.
Yeah.
And he's like, I thought about it all weekend, how I was going to keep you. And I was like, well, I thought about it all weekend, how I wasn't going to be here.
Wow.
So I was like, he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, listen, I'll take my pink stuff, figure something out.
Yeah.
And go do, that's kind of how it ended.
Got it. And you had not found out about us yet? You weren't working with us yet, right?
Nope, I wasn't working with you. Yeah. I worked for Eric Anthony when he was working at the dealership.
Okay.
And back in 2017 is when he went, which I wish I would have done it earlier,
Got it. So you knew kind of about us through Eric.
Yeah.
Did he try to recruit you at all?
He did a couple times. Yeah. He definitely tried to get me to get life insurance, which I know I have a bunch now. Yeah. But back at the time, I was like, I don't think I need it.
Right.
But seeing the impact of it now, it's different.
Yeah.
I look at it a lot different. So, yeah, he talked to me a lot about it then.
What did you think about the sales or, like, working here when he offered it to you?
Yeah, at the time, I was like, I didn't really know a lot about it.
Yeah.
And I think looking at the aspect of it, I was like, I don't know how you would make the pay and all that stuff too. So I was like, I was confused. I wish I jumped in and just took the risk and did it instead of waiting, 3 years or whatever it was to actually get going with it. So. Got
it. Yeah, because he left in 2017, right?
Yep.
And then when did you?
2021 in April.
In April. Got it. But at that point, like I said, you didn't have a license. You weren't even really thinking about us. You just were like, hey, I'm not working here no more because of what happened. Mm-hmm. What did you do next?
So actually, believe it or not, I actually went back. I did the stupidest thing.
Did you really?
2 months I went back. So I ended up doing that, and I was like, I was looking for an out. I was like, I had to find something that I could do.
Why'd you go back? You just couldn't find anything?
Well, I was like, at first, everybody was like, oh, Gary, come back. A lot of coworkers and stuff like that, they were like, come back. We want you here. We want you to come back and work with us and everything else. So I was like, I finally pulled the trigger, and I was like, well, listen, I'm not coming back with an apology unless I get an apology. Definitely. Like, hey, I messed up. I made a mistake, right?
Yep.
So they ended up doing that. I went back for a couple years, but I was already kind of like on my way out. I was just looking for that next thing to get me out of there.
Yeah. You just go back because you needed a job and you knew this one was secure.
Yeah. It was comfort.
Comfort, yeah.
Realistically, right? I went back for it because it was comfortable. Yeah. So.
But the whole time where you were thinking what your next move was going to be.
Yeah, I was like, I knew this wasn't forever. My grandfather even said it to me. He's like, hey, once that happened, I knew you weren't going to be here much longer. Yeah. It was just a ticking time bomb. It was time, So I knew it. I wish I would have done something then, so.
So what ended up happening? How did you find, or why did you make the decision to join us?
So back in 2021, it was right around January, February time.
Okay.
My in-laws, right, which I love them to death. They're down there in Florida, West Palm.
Okay.
So me and my wife, we went down there, go visit them for a week or whatnot. And then I know Eric Anthony was down in Boca, which is only a half hour from West Palm. So he had texted me. He said, hey, I know you're down here. You know, come by, stop by and visit. So I was like, okay. Yeah, me and Danielle will. We took a ride on the boat and everything else. I actually went driving by on the intercoastal there, right near Sean's house, and looking at all that.
Did you know Sean at the time?
No, I didn't. No.
Got it.
And then we were just on the boat, and we were just kind of talking. I was like, hey, man, I'm not really happy where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I saw what Eric Anthony was doing, and I was like, you know what? I got to make the jump. He's like, I'll get you, take the course, get your license. I went back, flew back. And I started taking taking the course. It took me like 3-4 weeks. I didn't do it like in a record time. Yeah. Because after I flew back to Connecticut in February, I was going through the course after work. So I would get out of work at 8 o'clock and I would study till like.
Yeah. What was your work schedule like? You said 6 days a week, right?
6 days a week. I'd get there right around like 9:30. Probably wouldn't end up leaving till 8 o'clock.
Got it.
A lot of times too, it was just kind of like, for me, it was a bad scene where because we'd all be out there drinking and doing that after work. It was long days and wouldn't get home till 10, you know, and my wife too even said at a point like, hey, you know, we're going to have to figure something out. Like, you're going to have to change something. We're not going to be able to grow. We're not going to have kids this way. And
what'd you think when she said that to you?
I was like, man, I felt kind of like I disappointed her.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know, I knew I had to make a change. I knew I had to impact my life. I knew it was better. Like and that's where kind of like accountability, like, hey, I got to step up and do something different, find a pathway out, you know? So ended up doing that, got my license. I tried helping families in the field, didn't know what the heck I was doing, right?
Were you still working at the dealership?
Yeah. Once I got my license and I passed it, I put in my 2 weeks notice.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You had that much faith in this and yourself, both? Like, how did you know that was the right thing to do?
I said to my wife, I said, hey, these next 2 months is probably going to be a little brutal at the beginning, but I said, if we figure this thing out, it's going to impact, it's going to make a difference.
Got it.
So she had a lot of belief in me. You know, Danielle, she believed in me.
How much did that help?
It was huge. Yeah. You know, because I probably at that time, she had more belief in me than I did. Right. And I think. And
that's key. Like, and it's always somebody. Maybe it's not always your spouse. Maybe it's a relative. Maybe it's the person who recruited you. Like what you said, that was the same way I felt when Sean recruited me back in 2009. Like, there's times where I'm going, I don't know why he believes in me.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do this shit. Like, I'm struggling, but he's going, dude, take these leads, do this. I'm like, I don't know what he sees, but maybe there's something in there.
Yeah.
You know, because at the time, like, you maybe didn't have the biggest belief, but she did.
Yeah, she 100%. And I had bad days, and I came back, and I'm like, Danielle, I had a horrible day. She's like, what's so horrible about it? You're not back at the dealership. You're not working, 60, 70 hours. She's like, just keep going. Tomorrow's a new day. You know, it's going to work out. Yeah. Just believe it, right?
That's awesome.
And that was huge.
You guys both wanted kids?
We both wanted kids, and I think the situation, we bought a house up in Plainfield. It was a small house, nothing crazy. Yeah. And, she's like, the aspect of where we were, she's like, you just got to make a jump and just, I believe in you, right? Yeah. She's like, you're a hard worker. If you put the effort that you did at the dealership into this, it's going to work. Yeah. And I was like, you're right, Yeah. So took the jump and it changed my life. You know, eventually it just clicked.
How long did it take to where you felt? Because, you said you got the license. You said you tried to sell, didn't really work out. You put in your 2 weeks, then made the jump. How long was that learning curve for you?
It was probably like a good 2 months, 2.5 months. Actually, I watched a lot of videos of Easton Patton on how he did it.
Shout out to Easton.
Yeah, shout out to Easton. Watch his video, and he was like the same way. Like he was buying all these leads, figuring it out, and coming back and wasn't having the crazy success. And then eventually it just clicked. Yeah. So I'm like, I kind of was shadowing or kind of like listening to what he was saying. And I was like, you know what? Just believe that. Every day's a new day. So I was like, just keep going. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Because you deal with a lot of rejection in sales, whatever you're doing. Which I'm sure you dealt with at the dealership too. But it's also like, I've never sold motorcycles or any type of motocross, but that's like a specialty.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people are coming in just window shopping.
Exactly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
you're right.
You're going there, you want to buy something.
Exactly.
You're not, I'm bored, let me go to the motocross dealership and spend,
Yeah.
You're not window shopping like you are at the store in the mall.
Exactly.
So it's a different deal. There's probably a lot more intent interest. You got to make numbers work, sure.
Yeah.
But here it's like, dude, they're filling out a form for us, for 10 other companies. Maybe they have insurance. There's a lot more layers to it, right?
Yeah.
What was the biggest thing you struggled with early on selling here?
Selling here, I think a lot of it was people telling me that they had to think about it, or not creating the why, or not going back to why they had filled out the request.
Yeah.
I would go in the home and I would kind of go over it, show them numbers, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'll give you a call back tomorrow."
Okay.
And I'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool. You will, right?"
Yeah. So they were selling you in the beginning.
They were selling me,
Yeah.
And then eventually, once I kind of dug into why did you fill this out?
Yeah.
What does it look like? What is the circumstances now?
Yeah.
You don't have any coverage, and
was that uncomfortable for you early on to talk about those things?
Oh yeah. And I almost thought I was like insulting them or something at first, but in reality, if you don't talk about those things, you're not really helping them,
right?
Because they don't know, right? They kind of almost have to vision it.
Yeah, you got to bring them back to that moment, that emotional moment that they were at when they filled out that form, right? Exactly. They didn't fill out the form because they were using logic. It's an emotional decision. It's sometimes you've been in this business a while. Sometimes it's a guy in the 40s who just got diagnosed with high blood pressure and thinks he's going to die tomorrow, or they had a relative pass away that was a similar age, or a friend or something, or someone in their family gets died. Like there's usually an emotional trigger that causes them to fill that out.
Yeah.
And if you don't bring them back to that moment, it's hard to make that sale and help the family.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. You bring back the moment of why they filled it out.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, hey. And I always thought of it like, hey, you're asking me for help. And a lot of times, too, when they try to sell me that, oh, I didn't fill it out. It's like, no, you did. You put this info, right? You requested the info. I'm getting back to you. So I think a lot of it, too, was some people were like, oh, maybe they just didn't want to talk to me then. And I always reach back out and try to, get back in touch with them or whatnot. Yeah. Maybe they just had a bad day.
Right.
But try to get back in touch with them. I know they filled it out for a reason. They were looking for something, right?
Yeah.
So.
Were you accountable here from day one? Like, I know you said when you were racing at first, you kind of blamed everyone. Then you took accountability and blamed yourself and got better. What was your path here? Did you initially think like, it's the leads, it's the client, or did you know it was you from the beginning?
At the beginning, I knew I had to be coachable, right? Yeah. I was like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about this business. So I knew it was kind of almost me.
Yeah.
I was like, how do I make this work? Or, what am I doing wrong? I think from the beginning, I took a lot of accountability.
Good.
Because it was something that I knew nothing about.
Right.
Right? So I had to listen to other people and kind of what they were saying and impact it and do it in my life, right? To try to make a difference. So.
Yep. What year did you start selling with us? Was it
2021?
2021.
April, yep.
And you've been Hall of Fame how many times now?
Twice. Yep.
So your first full years, this past year, 23 and 22, you were Hall of Fame.
Correct, yep.
What is the key in your mind to being consistent? Because it's one thing, Gary's people that come in and have a massive month, they have a massive quarter, they have a massive year, and then don't do anything, So you're 2 years now back to back, and what's your goal this year? Sales Hall of Fame again, or
the standard is to consistently do Hall of Fame numbers, right? And I think my goals for this year is how can I stop being selfish with myself and show other people how to do what I do, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Kind of like show them the impact that it's made on my life, and kind of how can I train other people to do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because I think at the beginning I never really did that. I didn't do it well enough where, if I could believe in other people like people believed in me, it's going to impact a lot more people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the key in your mind of being consistent with sales?
You're going to ride the roller coaster, right? You're going to have your highs that are high and your lows that are low. But every day I just showed up the same, right? No matter if the day before was a good day or a great day, I would still show up the next day no matter what, right? I treated it like a job.
Yeah.
I was always here working 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And I would constantly, no matter what the day was before, if it was a great day, good day, bad day, I always showed up to the next day the same level.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that was a huge thing.
That's massive because a lot of people, one of the hardest things in this business is not riding that roller coaster. And people struggle with both, you know, some people struggle with the ups, some people struggle with the downs. You know, it's like you're up and then you close 10 in a row and now you think you're untouchable, and then you get away from some of the you know, you get away from the small things, the blocking and tackling. You know, you're trying to run trick plays now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're not helping families anymore. Yeah. And now you're off track. Or the downs. Some people, yeah, they don't close 5 appointments in a row, and now it's the worst thing ever. You know, I mean, you've seen agents like, God, these leads, the this, the that, and you're like, dude, I'm using the same leads.
Yeah.
It's up here. So how do you do that? So you had a great day, you had a bad day. Let's start with a great day. You helped everyone you sat with yesterday.
Yep.
How do you not bring that into today?
So if I was in, you have those days, right, where you can help everybody. I think when I would go into the next day, I treated it like yesterday never happened. You know, so I knew it was a mindset thing. Yeah. And I knew if I just carried that momentum and just keep implementing what I did, like kept just duplicating what I did the next day. Yeah. I knew it was just eventually it was just going to keep working. Tried to carry as much momentum as I could. Yeah. I knew I was almost, if I took a day off, I felt guilty doing it. Yeah, yeah. You know, so I didn't want to be stuck with that guilt. Right. Right. So I would take that next day and I would do the same thing, and I'd be like, hey, I'm going to dial from, 8 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. I was going to do it. I just never looked at my previous day. I was like, no matter what that day was, today's a new day. You're back at zero.
Good day, bad day, you act like that day just did not happen.
It just didn't happen.
We're here, fresh start. This is day one. Every day is day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you mentioned you just repeat. It's repetition. You're going to make the same dials. You're going to put the same effort in regardless of what happened before.
Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of it too, it kind of, however it was, I was like, every day was a new day. I had day goals, right? So I was like, how many people can I talk to if it was a dial day, right? I need to talk to at least 300-400 people, or make 300-400 dials and talk to, 100 of them or 50 of them, right? Yeah. I always had those goals. Every day was a new day, and try to start right from the beginning, right? And then I knew it was just going to compound over time, and it was just going to, your craft is going to get better, right? You're going to start talking to people a lot more. It's going to get easier, right? And it was kind of, you were just going to do it like a well-oiled train, you know what I mean? So I just tried to keep that momentum going day after day.
Got it. So just daily, even to this day, you have your daily goal, and that's what you're focused on.
Exactly.
Whether it's, like you said, dial day, I need to talk to X amount, or if I'm running, I need to help this many families, but it's always a day-by-day deal.
Yeah, and in the field, too, if you get no-shows and stuff, I've had days where I'm like, man, I don't know what it is, what I'm doing wrong, or no one wants to see me. I must have said something yesterday.
Yeah, what do you do a day where it's off track? Let's say now when you're in a run day, what's your goal?
So run day is, I'm usually treating it like a job. So I'm 9 to 7, right, in my run schedule. Yeah. So in that time frame, even if I have appointments, I had leads. So if someone didn't show, I would go and door knock. I knew people in that area that I knew needed my help. They probably just don't answer the phone.
But did you have a goal of how many sits, how many applications? Like when you're running, what is your goal you're looking to hit?
My goal for running was to have at least 8 to 10 appointments. Okay. Minimally a day. Yeah. Right. So for those next 2 days, and it was to be as active as you possibly can. Right. Yeah. Maybe take a half an hour for lunch or something. Grab something, quick bite. Right. But in those from 8 to 10 hours a day, it was constantly, if people didn't show up, you're going to go and door knock 2 people. Right. Yeah. So those no-shows, you're going to go and talk to people.
You wanted to get in front of at least 10.
Yeah, at least 10. I wanted to be at least 10.
Yeah, because you know if you got in front of 10, just based, you know your numbers. You know if I sit with 10, and everyone's number's different. If I sit with 10, I'll help 5, I'll hit 7, whatever it is. But your deal was 10. What did you do? Because we all had these days where they didn't go as planned, right? It's like it all sounds great, but every day doesn't go as planned. No. You plan to sit with 10, sometimes you sit with 2. Yeah. So what did you change anything throughout the day when it wasn't, your day wasn't on track to hit your goals?
So if my day wasn't like on track, I would I would always try to keep that positive mindset, right? Because I knew if I started getting down on it, it's always that it's either the last appointment, a lot of times too, that you go to that changes your whole aspect of the day. So I knew that was definitely that could happen, and it happened a lot.
Yeah.
Where some days you'd be like, okay, I went to 5 appointments, none of them were there, or you know, some people were just kicked me out of the house or whatever it is. But I always knew. If you always have that one that could change it all.
Sure.
So positive mindset. I didn't try to bring in my negative attitude, and that's a huge thing was my positive attitude. Trying to keep that, right? Because I did. I had a negative attitude at times, but it never did anything good, and I tried to not bring that into the house.
Right.
You know, look at every situation different.
Yeah. It's funny to say I think about so many scenarios where it's an appointment that I thought about skipping. You know, I'd ran 8 appointments so far. None of them went my way. My last appointment is an hour from where I'm at. I'm going to be an hour late when I get there. Yeah. And everything in my mind's telling me go home. I go, you know what? Let me go to this appointment. And then you get there and you're writing a $50,000 annuity, 2 big policies. Like you help out the whole. It's just weird how stuff like that happens.
It's crazy.
I went to an appointment once where the guy gave me all kinds of shit on the phone. I showed up. He had no-showed me in the past. I go there again. What does he do? No-shows me. I'm walking back to my car. It's down in New Haven. His neighbor just happens to be walking down the street. He's like, yo, what you doing? I'm like, I had an appointment with this guy. He's like, oh, yeah. He starts cutting. He's like, that effing guy. He does that shit all the time to everyone. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, it's like second time he's done it to me. So anyway, like I'm just like trying to get to I had another appointment. He's like, what you selling? It's like, life insurance. Why, you need some? Like, just joking around. Yeah, I do. I was like, okay. He's like, you busy right now? I'm like, oh, shit. Like, no. Like, I got a few minutes. Dude, I go in his house. It's him, his brother. They had a couple kids. I end up writing like 5 apps in this one house.
That's awesome.
But because I went to the other appointment, which I didn't want to go to because the guy no-showed me and he was an ass on the phone, and then I show up and help the neighbor out with like 5 policies. Yeah. You just never know. You don't. And then I had a lead, actually. Someone called me back a couple weeks ago, right? From 2 years ago, I wrote him a policy. Wow. And, well, this is how it ended up happening. I called the lead. They told me, I'm all set. I got insurance. I'm all set. Hung up. Called him back again. I said, hey, listen, I'm not, here to sell you. I'm just here to make sure you're in the best possible position. So if you're in a good stance, I just walk out of the house and I'll leave. Right. You get out of here. I'm all set. I'm like, what? I said, they have something. And for some reason, I'm like, I'm going to go knock this house. Because I know these people, they filled it out. What was the reason why, right? So I went to the house. I knocked it, and I'm just like, I act like I never talked to him on the phone. I'm like, hey, my name's Gary Ahlberg. My office sent me out here to get this info to you. And they're like, oh, well, we talked to someone on the phone, and we're all set. I said, well, I'm sorry about that. That's my supervisor. I'm here to help you. I'm the nice guy, right? I'm sorry about how he was. So they ended up, I sit down with them. They had a couple graded policies, right? And a couple graded policies. I ended up sitting with them. We put them in a better position, got them more coverage than what it was and day one coverage. And then they just called me a couple weeks later, and they're like, hey, Gary, we want to up our coverage. Yeah. So it was just the people that told you to get lost, that you show up and they want it, right? And that's why I'll never take feedback from an agent when they go, well, these leads suck. Everyone wasn't interested. Did you do that, though? Yeah. Did you door knock them? Did you call? How many times did you call them? What'd you say? Exactly. What was your mindset going into it? Yeah. I'm a believer in you bring on your own objections 99% of the time. Now, some people I get, sure. Some people are just asses. I get it. But when you're getting a lot of crap on the phone, it's usually you. Yeah. You're doing something in your tone and your pitch and there's something you're doing to encourage that. Correct, yeah. Because how can someone else take those same leads and not get that? I always had the rule, like I always wanted, if I got a no on the phone, I wanted a no to my face. Yeah. Tell me no if you told me no on the phone, I'm going to come to your house. Yep. I'm going to show you the form. People are a lot nicer in person. Absolutely. Than they are on the phone, right? Because they don't know who you are. Right. So like everyone's a tough guy on the phone or on the internet, Yeah, they keyboard warrior. It's like, dude, you would never say that if I was standing in front of you. Yeah, exactly. I'm not a big guy. They'd probably be like, oh, I'd be like, you tussle me, listen, but I'm here to help you. Right. But I was always going to be like, you got to give me a note to my face. Yeah. This is the form you filled out. You requested this. This is your information. I didn't pull you out of a phone book. Right. You sent it to me. Yeah. So. Because to your point, they did fill something out. Yep. So regardless of how upset they are on the phone, because listen, if someone fills out a lead with us, they're filling out all kinds of shit.
Yeah.
So they're probably getting called for everything, right?
Exactly.
You want to buy this. That's what they do. They're professional form fillers. You know?
Exactly.
But ours is a little different. Ours is something that if you don't have, your family's screwed.
Exactly.
I can say that. If you don't have what we sell and you pass away, we're all going to pass away, your family's screwed.
Exactly.
And you've had some death claims.
Yeah.
Right, which I think that helps. I know that helps with this
definitely.
piece of it, because once you've experienced one, it's hard to walk away from a house when someone tells you no.
Yeah, it is. And I think you have those death claims and it actually makes it real, right? And some of these people, it's like, I always tell people, I'm like, hey, GoFundMe's not a life insurance, right? Unfortunately, you know, it's not going to help you. Better your situation. Don't try to better your family situation, right? You don't want to have them go through that, right? So,
do you have a death claim that sticks out to you? Has kind of made it real for you? Was it your first one, or?
I think it was. Yeah, it actually probably was my first one where they had got the policy and they were 6 months into it, and they gave me objections, right? And they didn't think they needed it. And I was like, hey, listen, you need this, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have if you don't have enough now to cover expense it, what makes you think down the road you're going to, right? So, you know, able to sat down with them, and then the wife called me, and they were a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
And she had called me, and she's like, hey, Gary, I really appreciate your persistency and coming in and helping me and you know, actually getting us the coverage, because this right now is helping me from being out of the gutter. Like, I wouldn't know what to do. So it was huge.
So the husband passed.
How
long, like, you met with them? What was the time frame to
it was like 6 to 8 months after.
Wow.
It was 6 to 8 months after I sat with them.
Yeah.
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 So
what did that feel like, getting that call? Because up until this point, you've been selling, but you've never seen this side of it, right? I'm sure you've heard stories. I'm sure, you know, it's one thing for me to tell you my death claim story, but it's another thing for you to experience it. What did that feel like when she called you?
It was, when she called me, it actually put chills down my back, because I'm like, holy crap, like, you know, this is what it does.
Right.
And it changed my whole outlook of this, right? And I was like, I actually was thankful, and I was like, I'm glad she called me, and I was glad that I was there, right? Instead of you calling me and not have gotten it, and right? Because it changed my whole aspect. And then after that, I was like, I'm not leaving anybody's house unless they get this coverage, right? Yeah. If they have a good reason why they need it, and they don't have already, you know, 4 or 5 policies, because a lot of people are underinsured too.
Absolutely.
So I was like, it just changed my whole aspect of it going into it. So
yeah, I mean, your thought process is differently. Like you said, once that happens, you don't want to leave that house, like, under no circumstances.
No,
because you have just experienced the other side of it. Yeah, and you know that can happen to this family as well.
After that, I was like, I'm either going in there and I'm protecting the family, or I'm getting thrown out, because you know, like, I just was real with them. Right?
Absolutely. So you had said, you touched on this a little bit earlier. You said you were a little selfish in this business, right? Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I was selfish because I cared, I think, a lot about what my own personal production, not what other people were going through. Yeah. So I think not sharing the opportunity and believing in people, and I wish I could go back and change that, but I can't, right? So if I can change it moving forward, I know it would make a difference. But I think if you can kind of help people and show them what this opportunity did for me, and have a lot of belief in people, like I had the people that believed in me, if I can believe in them, I think it'll change their life too. So me not sharing this opportunity is kind of being selfish or being like a silent agent.
When did you come to that realization?
Especially too when Sean said it to me. He's like, dude, I don't know why you care what people think, right? And is
that what was stopping you?
A lot of it too was caring what people think. Yeah. Right. And I think just being out there and show the world, hey man, you can change your life. You look at what it's done for you. Right. What could it do for another person that's reaching out? Right.
Yeah. So when you say you cared about what they thought, you didn't. Why did that stop you from sharing it? You thought that they would think, what, this isn't real. He wants something from me. Like, what about that made you uncomfortable?
I think I just cared too much of, like, if someone didn't have like a positive comment on it or something. Yeah. Like, I think that's what it was. I was scared of the negativity that it brought. But I was like, at the end of the day, these people, and I've heard so many stories, right, of people that they're going to knock you. And then a couple years later, they end up following you and they want to do it, right? Yep. So I think that a lot of it was I cared too much about that. And,
makes sense.
And it affected me mentally where, like, at the end of the day, like, who cares? Who cares?
Hey, you share it with someone and they go, Gary, it sounds like the greatest thing in the world. Cool. Gary, that sounds ridiculous. Cool.
Yeah.
It's not for you then.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key to that, dude, is this is not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is above average. Not everyone does that. You know, so when you watch it, so if I join NFL, I'm going to be Hall of Fame and make all this money. No. You could.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Are you willing to go through the rejection? Are you willing to go through the failure? Are you willing to be accountable and know that it was you? It wasn't the leads. It wasn't the client. It wasn't the area.
Exactly.
Most people are not willing to go through that.
No. And I always told people, too, I say, listen, you're going to work hard at a job or you can work hard on yourself, where this business is so rewarding.
Yeah.
If you work really hard and you go through the rejection, it's going to help you out, right?
Absolutely.
So just have it impact your life. If I could do that for other people and what it's done for me, and if it could better any situation, right, for them, I want it to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have, like, naysayers around you when you started? I know your wife was supportive, but was there other friends, family that were like, dude, what are you doing? That's not going to work?
I told a couple people, and they laughed in my face.
Really?
And it almost put that fire in me, like, oh, dude, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Motivate you.
Yeah. So I was like, a lot of people asking me why, and I was like, they just don't get it. I think a lot of people, they didn't understand, and I was like...
It's funny, the same thing that motivated you also made you not want to talk to people about this.
I know. So it put a fire under me, and I was like, I'm going to prove these guys wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of it, too, is I care too much about it, which I don't know why, because if I got it, it's almost going to fuel me more.
Yeah.
Right? So, I don't know. Just
Absolutely.
impact it, change it.
Yeah. And now you have a new why, right?
Yep.
Your son.
4-month-old son,
4-month-old son.
Love it.
Your wife. What's that been like? How we talked about a little bit in the beginning, but how much has that changed your mentality here?
Oh, it makes me be a lot more efficient with my time.
Yeah.
Because I know, I love my son. It's a lot of time, and now I just got to be more efficient with it.
Yeah.
Right? There's no slacking.
Right.
So to be there for my wife, and it hard at the beginning, right? Yeah. And I think it was adjusting and trying to figure it out more. I definitely just efficiency with my time. Make sure I'm there for my wife. I try to be the best that I possibly can be for them. Yeah. Right. And provide and do as much as I can. Right. As a human being, I just want to be better every day. That's it.
Yep. That's awesome. And that's a great motivator, and you're also setting an example. That's what a lot of people don't get. Like, you look at the now, right? You're just trying to figure out your time so you can be around. But as your son grows and he watches what you're doing, he'll know what a work ethic is. He'll know what it's like for someone to take care of their family because you're doing it. Yeah. It's a big deal. One thing I would say, schedule family time. Sounds crazy. Yeah. But a lot of people, they definitely. Just, they schedule everything else. And the family time just, I'll get it in. Like, literally, I learned this from Sean. I remember to this day, he uses a paper planner. Yeah. Writes his stuff down. And I remember he'd be like, whatever day it was, Sunday, kids from this time to this time, he had it in his planner so that it became part of his schedule and it wasn't an afterthought.
I'm the same way. I have to write it down in a planner, block it out, and I try to be as efficient as I can and do that. And that's the thing, too. I don't want to let him down either, you know? So as my kid gets older, I want him to know what a work ethic is and go achieve most of the things that you can do, so.
Well, he's got a great example, dude. So
I appreciate it.
Awesome. I mean, dude, I've seen you from this whole journey, so I'm proud to see what you're doing now, where you came from. It's amazing. Yeah. I like to wrap with some fun stuff, Gary. So if you don't like these questions, blame all of them because they provided them. I just pick them. There's a few fun questions I'm going to throw at you. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Are you a music guy?
Oh, a little bit.
A little bit. All right, maybe this is not a good one then. All right, here you go. What's your one weapon of choice during a zombie apocalypse? That's a crazy one. I don't know what it has to do with anything.
Yeah. I'd probably pick like a, I don't know, AK-47 because you play like Call of Duty and stuff. So I'm like
real life Call of Duty.
Yeah. So I think of it as like a real life Call of Duty. I'd be like, that was like my favorite weapon of choice in like the game. So I'd be like, hey, screw it, give me that. I'll do that.
If you could be any fictional character in the world, who would you be and why?
Oh, that's a good one.
Waiting for someone to say like Mickey Mouse or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Tarzan. I
Okay.
don't know.
Tarzan.
It'd be cool
that's
to be slinging
different.
all over the place.
I like that one. That's cool.
Because I feel like I don't know. I have ADHD, so
Yep.
I'm like, hey, I'd be like Tarzan, flying from trees would be cool. Swinging from vines would be pretty cool.
That's awesome. On that note, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
When I was a kid, I actually wanted to be like a pro hockey player.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Did you play hockey growing up?
Yeah. I learned to skate when I was 3.
Wow.
And I played hockey all the way up, I think, until high school.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like my dream.
Really?
Go to Boston College, play hockey.
Yeah.
And then it was one of those things. It was everybody else, and I stopped playing because it was a coach, or it was this. It was a teammate.
Okay. That was before you learned how to be accountable.
Started being accountable, and I think that was huge. Where it was everybody else but me in that team sport, right?
Right.
And I dread it to this day. I wish I still played.
Yeah.
Or at least join like a beer league or something like that. But I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I love that.
Who knows? Maybe your son will pick it up.
Yeah.
I know you put that in here too. You do want to coach your son.
Definitely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I definitely want to be at his games and be a coach and help him and be there, you know, in his life. So
I'll tell you what, I don't coach, but all my kids are active in sports.
Yeah.
And Gary, one of my favorite things in life is to go watch them play whatever they're playing.
Oh yeah.
I had my daughter's gymnastics competition yesterday. Like it's a lot.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of hurry up and wait, you know.
Yeah.
But it's awesome watching them play
awesome.
basketball, football, those. So you'll have hopefully a long life of doing that and enjoying that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you coming and doing this.
Thanks
really
for having me.
I appreciate what you do. You know, going out there,
you.
busting your ass, hitting Hall of Fame year after year, setting the example for what a lot of other people can do if they decide to put into work, decide to change and grow. Like it's not easy.
No, it's not. And you still have your days.
Yeah.
You still have your days where you wake up and you're like, oh man, I don't want to do this, right? But it's that days you just go do it. Yeah. Right? There's no other option. You just got to go do it.
That's it.
You know, so.
And that's if you're brand new and you go, oh, man, I don't know. I feel like I'm down. I don't want to do Dude, Gary's a 2-time Hall of Famer, still feels that way at times. Mm-hmm. But that's the key. Don't live in that moment.
Exactly.
You know, y'all that are not doing it, you're living in that moment.
And a lot of my best days were from those days I didn't want to do
Absolutely.
it. So it's like, I'm like, holy crap. Like, it makes a difference, right?
So like you said, it's the fundamentals. It's just keep doing. Your goal is not about how much did I make. It's how many calls did I make? How many people did I speak to? How many did I get in front of? Mm-hmm. You do that, the rest of the stuff will work itself out.
Exactly, 100%.
You know? So thanks again, dude. Appreciate you
thanks
coming
for having
up.
me, man.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks for watching. Download, hit subscribe button if you haven't already. If you haven't already, it'd be odd. Why are you watching this thing and not subscribe to us? That's crazy. You are starting to recruit, so let these guys know if someone's watching this and they want to join your team. Where are you posted on social? Where to find you? What's the handle?
Yep. So go on Instagram. Yep. It's going to be at Gary Ahlberg, or you could do at FFL Optimal.
There you go.
And also on my Facebook. We're trying to help as many people as we can, you know, as be a big source of believing in people and getting them going. So if you guys have any questions, anything like that, feel free to reach out.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you, Gary. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.